Leave my house now. The door burst open and Ngozi stumbled into the cold night air, her wrapper barely tied around her waist, one arm cradling a screaming newborn while the other gripped her 2-year-old daughter, Chisholm, who clung to her leg and cried without understanding why. Rain hammered the compound of the Okafor estate in Enugu. The generator hummed in the distance. The gateman stood frozen by the entrance, afraid to look, afraid to speak. Chief Emmanuel Okafor stood in the doorway in his agbada, tall and broad-shouldered, his chest heaving with a rage that had been building for years. Behind him, lantern lights spilled from the parlor where relatives had gathered, his mother, his brothers, a few cousins, all watching in silence. 3 daughters, he thundered into the rain. 3. You have given me nothing but girls, Ngozi. What kind of woman are you? Ngozi turned to face him. Her wrapper was soaked. The baby, just hours old, whimpered against her chest. Her older daughter, Adiz, slept inside the house. In a moment, the house girl would bring her out too. Emmanuel, Ngozi said quietly. They are your children. They are a curse, he shouted. My name will die with me because of you. Pack your things and go back to your father's house. I am done with this marriage. She looked at him for a long time. The rain fell between them like a curtain. One day, she whispered, you will regret this. He laughed. A short, dismissive laugh. The kind of laugh that says, impossible. He turned around and walked back inside. The door slammed shut. That was 1998. Now it was 2021. And Chief Emmanuel Okafor, once one of the most respected businessmen in Enugu state, stood on the balcony of his mansion and watched as 2 police vans pulled into his compound. Officers in uniform moved quickly across the freshly tiled courtyard. His 2 sons, Emeka, 28, and Tobena, 25, were brought out in handcuffs, heads bowed, faces tight with shame. Neighbors gathered at the fence. Someone was filming with a phone. A television van idled at the gate. The man who had once laughed in the rain gripped his balcony railing with trembling hands. His empire was collapsing in real time. And the daughters he had thrown into the storm were nowhere nearby to catch him. If you are just joining us, stay till the very end, because what those daughters became will take your breath away. To understand the full weight of what Emmanuel Okafor lost, you have to understand who he was when he made his choice. Emmanuel came from old money and older thinking. His father, Chief Sylvester Okafor, had built a transport and logistics business in the 1970s that made the family one of the wealthiest in Enugu. Emmanuel grew up surrounded by praise, deference, and the unshakable belief that a man's worth was measured by his sons. Sons carried the name. Sons inherited the land. Sons stood at your graveside and poured libations. Daughters left and became someone else's property. He married Ngozi Ease in 1994 when she was 23 and he was 32. She was educated, a graduate of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, but in his world, that counted for little compared to the expectation that she would produce male heirs. She was beautiful and gentle and deeply in love with a man who, in the beginning, seemed capable of love in return. Their first daughter, Adiz, was born in 1995. Emmanuel's disappointment was visible, but he buried it under celebration. He told himself, next time. Their second daughter, Ifeoma, came in 1997. This time, he did not celebrate. He sat in the hospital corridor and refused to enter the room for hours. When he finally did, he looked at the baby without holding her and left after 3 minutes. His mother came to the house the next week. Emmanuel, she said, you need to take a second look at this marriage. 2 girls and nothing more. What will people say? Ngozi heard every word from the kitchen. She stood by the window and pressed her hands flat on the counter to stop them shaking. When she became pregnant a 3rd time, she prayed with everything she had. She visited her church every morning. She fasted. She begged God in whispers at 3 a.m. while Emmanuel slept beside her like a man who had already made up his mind. The third baby was twin girls. Born healthy, lungs full of air, arriving together like they had agreed beforehand to come as a pair. That was the night he sent her away. She walked out of that gate with Adiz on one side, Ifeoma on the other, and the twins, she would name them Kelechi and Nneka, pressed to her chest. She had 4,500 naira in her purse, one bag of clothes, and the quiet fury of a woman who had been told that the children she carried in her own body were not enough. If you have ever watched someone face injustice with nothing but their dignity, type karma in the comments right now. Keep watching. Ngozi's father, Paiz, lived in a modest bungalow in Ugbani. He opened his door and did not ask questions. He simply stepped aside to let her in. Her mother cried quietly in the kitchen and made pepper soup. That was the beginning. The early years were brutal. Ngozi took a job as a primary school teacher, her degree qualified her, and the salary was barely enough. She sold akra by the roadside before school and groundnuts in the evening. Her father helped where he could. Her mother took care of the babies while she worked. The daughters grew up knowing hardship as a texture, not a crisis. They knew the feel of patched school uniforms and the sound of their mother counting change at the end of the month. They knew what it meant to eat EBA without enough egusi because someone had borrowed and hadn't paid back yet. But they also knew something else. They knew the sound of their mother's voice at night, not crying, not defeated, reciting their names one by one as if each name were a prayer. Adiz, Ifeoma, Kelechi, Nneka. You are my joy. You will be great. At school, some children were cruel the way children can be when they have absorbed adult prejudice without understanding it. A classmate told Adiz once, "Your father didn't even want you. He threw your whole family away." Adiz came home and told her mother. Ngozi sat down, looked her daughter in the eye, and said, "That is his loss. Not yours. You are not rejected, you are free. Now focus on your books." That sentence became something like a family scripture. You are not rejected. You are free. Back in Enugu, Emmanuel Okafor wasted no time. Within a year of sending Ngozi away, he had married a new woman, Amaka, the daughter of a business associate from Awka. She was young, eager to please, and understood clearly what was expected of her. In 1999, she gave birth to their first son. Emmanuel named him Emeka, Emmanuel Jr., and threw a party that lasted 3 days. He slaughtered 2 cows. He invited the governor's aide. He rented a hall and played high-life music until the neighbors complained. "Now I have a real heir," he told his brothers. 2 years later, Tabena was born. Another party. Another cow. Emmanuel stood before his guests in his embroidered agbada and declared himself a complete man. From the outside, he had everything. Wealth. Influence. 2 healthy sons. A beautiful second wife. A growing empire of logistics, real estate, and government contracts. He built a new mansion in GRA. He joined the right clubs. He knew the right people. But inside the mansion, behind the polished marble floors and the imported chandeliers, things were already beginning to go soft. Emeka and Tabena grew up like weeds in rich soil, fast, untended, heading in whatever direction required the least effort. Emmanuel was too busy building his empire to build his sons. Amaka tried, but she had been raised in a home where she watched her own father override her mother at every turn, and she had learned to stay small. She could not discipline boys that their father openly celebrated for every smallest thing. He broke a boy's arm at school, the principal told Emmanuel when Emeka was 11. "Boys fight," Emmanuel said. "Did the other boy start it?" "He broke his arm, sir." "Send me the hospital bill. I will sort it." That was the pattern. Money solved everything. Consequences evaporated. Emeka and Tabena moved through their teenage years understanding one thing very clearly: their father's name was a shield, and his money was a sword, and neither would ever be taken away from them. Meanwhile, in Ugbani, the daughters were doing something entirely different. Adiz had discovered a ferocity inside herself that poverty had sharpened to a point. She sat at the top of her class from primary school through secondary school. She won essay competitions. She read books borrowed from the school library and returned them before the deadline because she did not want to owe anyone anything, not even a fine. When she wrote her WAEC exams, she scored distinctions in 8 subjects. When the results came out, her mother sat down on the floor of their small parlor and wept. Not from sadness. From something older and bigger than sadness. Ifeoma was quieter but no less determined. She had a mind for science that revealed itself early. She dissected the mechanics of things, asked how they worked, rebuilt broken appliances just to understand them. By the time she was in JSS2, she had fixed the family's old pressing iron, rewired a faulty socket, and built a working radio from components she bought at the Ugbani market for 200 naira. The twins, Kelechi and Nneka, were born into the struggle but raised alongside their sister's ambition. They watched Adiz and Ifeoma like students watch teachers. They absorbed the language of the household: read, try, fail, try again, never stop. The 4 sisters had a pact, unwritten but understood. None of them would be defined by what one man had decided on a rainy night in 1998. "We will make our name matter," Adiz told them once, when they were all together in the small room they shared, the ceiling fan turning slowly above them. "Not his name. Our name. Ngozi's daughters. That is who we are." You may be wondering, did Emmanuel ever look back? Did he ever ask about them? Once. In 2006, he sent a message through a mutual contact asking if Ngozi needed money. She sent back 3 words: "We are fine." He did not try again. Who do you think made their family proud in the end? Drop your answer in the comments. Let's keep going. By 2010, Adiz had graduated from the University of Nigeria with a first-class degree in law. She had applied for and won a scholarship to study for her LLM in Lagos. She worked part-time at a law firm while completing her master's degree, sleeping 4 hours a night, eating 1 proper meal a day, refusing to let exhaustion have the final word. By 2014, she was an associate at one of Lagos's most prominent litigation firms, arguing cases before federal court judges with a precision that made senior partners take notice. By 2018, she had made partner. By 2020, her name was on the firm's letterhead. Ifeoma studied medicine at the University of Benin. She chose surgery. Her lecturers said she had the hands of someone who had been operating since before she was born, steady, deliberate, fearless. She completed her residency in Lagos and was offered a fellowship position in a top-tier private hospital in Abuja. She specialized in cardiothoracic surgery. She saved lives. She did it quietly, without announcement, the way she had always done things. Kelechi, the first of the twins, went into technology. She studied computer science at Futo, then built herself a portfolio of freelance web development work that grew into a full digital agency in Lagos. By 2021, her company, Keltec Solutions, had a staff of 40 and contracts with 2 state governments and a multinational bank. Nneka chose business. She started a food processing startup in Enugu that sourced produce directly from local farmers and distributed to supermarkets across 3 states. She was 26 when she appeared on a business magazine cover with the headline, "The Quiet Revolution, Meet the Young Enugu Entrepreneur Changing How Nigeria Eats." Ngozi watched all 4 of her daughters and felt something she had no name for. It was not triumph. It was not revenge. It was something quieter, the satisfaction of a woman who had bet everything on her children and watched them prove every doubt wrong. She had retired from teaching by then. She lived in a house Adiz had bought for her in Enugu, a comfortable, bright house with a garden where she grew Uziza and Utazi, and she spent her mornings drinking tea and her evenings on video calls with whichever daughter she hadn't spoken to yet that day. She was content. She was whole. She had not spent a single day waiting for Emmanuel Okafor to regret his choice. But regret, it turned out, was coming regardless. It began with Emeka. In 2019, Emmanuel had handed his eldest son a directorship in Okafor Logistics, the crown jewel of his empire. He wanted Emeka to learn the business, grow into it, eventually take over. What Emmanuel did not know, or refused to see, was that Emeka had spent his 20s building a different kind of network, the wrong kind. He had friends with connections to government procurement fraud. They had shown him how to manipulate contracts, how to inflate invoices, how to launder the difference through shell companies. Emeka had been doing it quietly for 3 years before it unraveled. In June 2021, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission began investigating a 2.3 billion naira road construction contract in Anambra State. The paper trail led quickly to a company called Mstar Projects Limited, registered in 2018, with a director named Emeka Emmanuel Okafor. The EFCC moved fast. They froze accounts. They interviewed witnesses. They gathered documents. On a Tuesday morning in July, they arrived at the Okafor estate in GRA. Emmanuel was upstairs when he heard the commotion. He came to the balcony and saw the vans, the officers, his 2 sons being led across the courtyard. Because Tabena, who had been trying to warn his brother for months, had made the mistake of helping move some of the funds. In the law's eyes, he was equally guilty. The arrest was filmed. The video was on Twitter within the hour. By evening, it was on Channels TV. Emmanuel's business partners began calling, first to express shock, then to distance themselves. A government official who had been his friend for 20 years stopped taking his calls. 2 contracts were quietly reassigned. The headline the next morning read, "Sons of Enugu business mogul arrested over N2.3 BN fraud scandal." Emmanuel sat in his parlor and stared at the newspaper. His wife Amaka sat across from him, silent, her hands folded in her lap. "I did everything for those boys," he said. No one answered. The legal battle was long, expensive, and humiliating. Emmanuel spent everything he had trying to buy his son's freedom, lawyers, bail applications, appeals, arrangements. The walls of his empire cracked and then crumbled. Real estate sold at a loss. The logistics company, without government contracts, began laying off staff. By early 2022, the GRA mansion was mortgaged. He was sick too. His doctor had diagnosed hypertension and early-stage diabetes 2 years before, and the stress of the scandal accelerated everything. He lost weight. The large, commanding frame that had filled the doorway that rainy night in 1998 had become something smaller, slower, older than its years. One afternoon in March 2022, Emmanuel was sitting outside a pharmacy in Enugu, waiting for his medication, when he saw a magazine in the rack beside the door. On the cover was a young woman in a sharp blazer, confident, looking directly into the camera. The headline read, "Adiz Okafor is, the lawyer redefining corporate litigation in Nigeria." He bought the magazine. He sat in his car and read the article. His daughter's face looked back at him from every page. She had his eyes. He had never noticed that before, or perhaps he had never allowed himself to. He called her that evening. She did not pick up. He called again the next day. She did not pick up. He sent a text message, "Adiz. This is your father. I know I have no right to call. But I need to speak with you. Please." 3 days passed. No reply. On the 4th day, he drove to Lagos. He found the law firm's address through a Google search, something his grandson might have laughed at, the old man fumbling through a phone screen in the back of a hired car. He sat in the reception area in a simple kaftan, no agbada, no entourage, and asked if Adiz Okafor was available. The receptionist called upstairs. A few minutes later, footsteps on the staircase. Adiz appeared at the top of the stairs and stopped. She was 27 the last time she had seen him, not a memory, more of an image, a man in a doorway, rain falling, the door slamming shut. She was now 43. She had built a life so far from that doorway that she had almost stopped thinking about it. Almost. She came downstairs slowly. She looked at him, this reduced version of the giant who had once filled her mother's nightmares, and felt something complicated move through her. Not hatred. Not grief. Something harder to name. She sat across from him in a small meeting room. She did not offer tea. She waited. Emmanuel Okafor looked at his daughter and saw everything he had thrown away. He saw his wife's courage in the set of her jaw. He saw his own intelligence reflected back at him from eyes that had never stopped seeing clearly. "Please," he said. "I am asking for your help. I have nothing left. Your brothers, they are facing prison. My business is gone. I am sick. I have no one." Silence. "I know I was wrong," he said. His voice cracked. "I know what I did to your mother. I know what I did to all of you. I was a foolish man. I was blinded by foolish pride. And I would take it back if I could. Every day of it." Adiz looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "When we needed a father, when our mother was selling akra at 5 a.m. in the rain to feed us, when I wore the same shoes for 2 years because there was no money for new ones, when Ifeoma cried herself to sleep because a classmate told her she was unwanted, where were you?" He had no answer. "You didn't just leave us," she continued, her voice very calm. "You made a decision about our worth before you even knew us. You looked at us and decided we were not enough. Do you understand what it does to a child to be told, before they can even speak, that they are a disappointment?" He closed his eyes. "I have 4 daughters," he said. "And I wasted them." Adiz stood up. She straightened her jacket. She looked at the old man in the chair, broken, diminished, genuinely remorseful, and she made a decision. Not because she owed him anything. Not because the pain was gone. But because she was her mother's daughter, and her mother had taught her that compassion was not weakness. It was the hardest form of strength. "I will speak to my sisters," she said quietly. "We will help with the medical bills. That is all I am promising right now." She paused at the door. "My mother's name is Ngozi Ease. She never stopped being a remarkable woman. Remember that." Then she walked out. Later that evening, Adiz called her sisters. One by one, Ifeoma in Abuja, Kelechi in Lagos, Nneka in Enugu. She told them everything. There was silence on the line when she finished. Then Nneka said, "Mama always said we were free. Let's be free." They agreed. They would help with his medical care, anonymously, through a third party, so he would know it was from them but could not use it to claim closeness he had not earned. They would not restore the relationship. They would not rewrite the past. But they would not let a sick old man die in penury, either. Not because he deserved it. Because they did. Ngozi, when Adiz told her, was quiet for a while. Then she said, "You are better people than he made it easy to be. I am proud of you." That was enough. Emmanuel Okafor died in 2024, in a rented flat in Enugu, with his second wife and one of his brothers nearby. His sons were still fighting their legal cases. His business was gone. His name, once announced with pride in every room, was now attached to a scandal. But somewhere in the city, a surgeon was saving a life in an operating theater. A lawyer was standing before a judge arguing for justice. A tech company was employing 40 people and growing. A food business was lifting farmers out of poverty. 4 women. Built from nothing. Built by a mother who refused to let a cruel decision be the final word. The man had chosen his sons. He had bet his entire legacy on the children he wanted and dismissed the children he had. And in the end, the ones he rejected were the ones who had anything worth inheriting. Not his money. Not his name. Something far more durable. The refusal to give up. If this story moved something in you, please like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And in the comments, tell me, do you believe he deserved forgiveness? There is no right answer. But I want to know what you think. Drop it below. I read every single one.